another video. This is a kind of a long overdue video, I feel like. Excuse the fan in the back too. Our toilet overflowed today, and there are fans in there to dry out our floorboards. I don't know, that toilet is wacky, it does its own thing. But anyways, nonetheless, I haven't been super active uploading here on this channel over the past few years, literally. So there have been some reoccurring questions that have come up over the past, I'd say like 4 years. So finally gonna answer those. Jessica, say hello to everybody. There's my pretty Jessica girl. She's never really officially been announced on this channel. I adopted her and her sister. We adopted her and her sister from the kill shelter from like a nearby county. Huh, she's a pretty girl. These cats are like, oh, I love cats, I love cats. I'm such a cat lady. Following my mom's footsteps. I think my mom at one point had like 7 cats. One question I get a lot is, where are your ferrets? Where are your rabbits? And I'm gonna talk about this like kind of in the same breath because similar situations. However, so on this channel, kind of one of the main things that I used to do and will continue or start to do again rather, is rescue animals and like rehabilitate them if I need to, or like put them in a proper enclosure, teach about that enclosure, and then rehome them out. So that was the plan with the rabbits. I got them at different times, but I got Penny first, and I wasn't even gonna get a rabbit. She just needed to be rescued. She was being given away for free. If you saw her video a long time ago, then you know what's going on with that whole story and her beginning, her humble beginnings. I'll link it below if you wanna see it. But I rescued her with the intention of finding her a new forever home at some point. The deal with me is that I'm very picky to who I adopt animals out to when I rescue them and then put them up for adoption. You have to be smart, you have to know what you're doing, you have to prove that you know what you're doing, you have to prove that you've done your research, you have to prove to me that you have the cage and the enclosure, and I just have like a lot of like boxes you have to check basically. So it does and it can take me a very long time to find a forever home for some animals that I rescue. And so then people think that that's just my pet now. And I will say that Penny was like this close to just becoming my pet because I just loved her so much, and I just have a special spot in my heart for rabbits. Like, I love rabbits. So I eventually found somebody here in San Diego that was able to take both of the rabbits and adopt them and give them a wonderful home, and they were going to let them free roam, and their house was rabbit safe and all that kind of stuff. And so it was a wonderful situation because I was about to have my first baby as well, and I literally had no space in this house. This house is not very big, and the giant barn that I talked about in my last video has not been built yet. And so when you're expecting a child, you need space. So, and here's the other deal. I don't live in this house by myself. I do have a husband who loves animals, but not to the extent that I do, I would say. Like, for instance, I would straight up have a rabbit enclosure in my living room in order to keep a rabbit or an animal that I wanted to keep. That's not an option for me because I live with someone else who is not okay with that. So, you know, we had a conversation and someone came up that was able to give them a wonderful home. So we ended up adopting the rabbits out, and I get updates and they're doing wonderful. Similar kind of situation when it comes to space with the ferrets. First of all, ferrets are illegal in California, which is the stupidest thing in the world. That is one rule that I will break in the future and I just really don't care about, but it will be done completely secretly. You will have no idea that I have ferrets because I want them to be safe and remain safe. And people in California have ferrets. You see them on Craigslist. It does get flagged and stuff, but that's actually where I got my first ferret before I moved to Tennessee. So I had a handful of ferrets, and I love ferrets. Ferrets are wonderful, but again, with space, and I was about to welcome my first child, and I did not have the space in this house for ferrets. They do require quite a large space, just like rabbits, if you're going to care for them properly. And I was already overwhelmed and in the middle of a full house remodel. The house was being ripped apart. It was loud. They were not able to come out of their cage very much. So for their safety and for the reason of welcoming a baby and just straight up not having the space in this house and having a husband who was not okay with animals in the living room. Although I do have a chameleon in there, and that one has skated by for now. So I might have to shove him in my animal room, but we'll see. He's good there for now. But living with someone who, you know, isn't okay with that, I have to respect that. So I was very overwhelmed about to have the baby. We were ripping our house to shreds. So I ended up rehoming my ferrets to a wonderful family as well. Super educated, not their first rodeo, had ferrets before. Felt very comfortable. Like, I don't feel like I really necessarily need to explain all that. My expectations are very high for people that adopt the animals, which is why, you know, some animals live and end up dying of old age in my care. And on that note, I will say that poor little Nubs, Nubs, a few of you have asked about, he was the bearded dragon that came to me with his little toes and feet had been taken off by a cat at some point, and he was missing part of his tail, hence the name Nubs with his little feet. And he had this giant cancerous spot, two of them actually, three actually, one was very small, but it kept growing. The previous owner had removed it, it came back, so he was living on borrowed time. When he was surrendered to me, he was, I was told, 7 years old, and I had him for about 3 years. So you do the math, but he was very old and he passed away very peacefully. And he had been up for adoption for a very long time, but I had never found a home for him that I was comfortable with. So I just kept him and loved on him and did that till his very last day. Now I'm gonna tell you a story of Daisy May. I need to take a little drink of this though. If you saw my last video, which was feeding all of my animals 2025 version, you met Daisy May. Daisy May is our giant 12-year-old Sulcata tortoise, and the story about how we came to own a Sulcata tortoise is pretty out there and wild, I guess. So about a year and a half ago, so if you don't know this, my husband is a firefighter, paramedic, so he is in a lot of people's houses on the daily, and he was in someone's house and he noticed that there was like setups around for like an animal, but he didn't know what kind. So he ended up asking the gentleman, hey, what kind of animal, you know, do you have in here? And he points and says, that over there, that's Daisy May. And there is a giant Sulcata tortoise just chilling in the corner of their house, like a house tortoise. And he's just like, what in the world? And this guy's wife was suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, and she was just not in the best health, still isn't in the best health. And so Nick said, hey, you know, my wife's been talking about having a Sulcata tortoise on our property. Here's my phone number, should you ever need it. And now he never told me that he gave this gentleman our phone number. So a year and a half later, he comes home and he's like, how do you feel about adopting a Sulcata tortoise? And I said, well, we are not really prepared. But I have been researching it because once we fence in our property, I would love to have a Sulcata tortoise just roaming our property and have their little house and their little watering hole and like all this stuff. I had been in contact with the House Tortoise Society, I think is the one in San Diego, about adopting one of their tortoises, because you can adopt one for free, but they require that you have a heated house, and we didn't have that, and those are very expensive to build and to run. And so I was like, all right, not really set up for this right now, but we'll come back to it. So I was in contact with this guy and I was like, hey, like, I don't really have the right setup right now. I don't have a heated house. I don't have this, I don't have that. And like, how long, like, when do you need to get rid of your tortoise? You know, cause he was older and he can't pick her up anymore. She's like 70 something pounds and kind of awkward to lift, you know, they're very heavy. And I'll tell you the story about how he got her, which is even crazier. But, so he's basically like, okay, this needs to happen like in the next month. And I'm like, well, we're leaving the entire, not country, we're leaving the state for an entire month. And so we worked it out. But anyways, we had to get the tortoise. We had to adopt the tortoise. It was like kind of like and he was telling me, he said, I don't know what to do with her. Like, the House Tortoise Society won't reply to me. They don't call me back. Like, no one will take her. And so it was kind of one of those things where this like old elderly gentleman like had nothing to do with this tortoise. Like, and he had to like get rid of her. And his kids didn't want her. And so I was like, I'll take the tortoise. I'll figure it out. So he actually already had a heated house, completely brand new, made for her in preparation of rehoming her, which was so nice. It cost him an arm and a leg to have built. So we have her set up in her backyard, and this is not her forever space, and you know, it doesn't have super fresh grass and like all that. So it's not the best setup, but he needed to get rid of this tortoise, and we gave her a home, and we love her. And once we have our area down, our whole property fence in, we'll give her like an amazing location. But right now she you know, cruises around. She's a happy camper. But listen to how, I'll make this quick, but how he got this tortoise. So they live in not an area like I live, like this is like farmland out here, but where he lives, the houses are real close together, and his dog would bring like stones into their yard. And so one day he brought this stone to the front door, and it like sprouted legs and started walking around, and he was like, that's a turtle. And so yeah, they kept the turtle, and it was only like this big. He said, he sent me pictures, which I actually need to get the hard copies of, but he sent me pictures of Daisy May in his wife's hand, and she was like this freaking big, and she's huge now. And yeah, so the dog brought what the dog thought was like a rock to their front door, and that's how they got the tortoise. And they brought the tortoise, and when the tortoise was like, what, 2 years old or something, they brought it to the vet just to make sure that, you know, she was okay and everything, and brought her in a shoebox. And he tells the vet, here's my box tortoise, or my box turtle. And the vet goes, why do you think it's a box turtle? And he's like, well, it fits in a box. The vet is like, no, sir. This is like a Sulcata tortoise. They get giant. They can get over 100 pounds. They live for 100+ years. And so it was kind of funny, but that is how Daisy May walked her way into this guy's life, and that's how she walked her way into our life. And I'm gonna apologize. It is very cloudy here today, and the sun just keeps changing. I'm sitting in front of a big window, and it's just ever changing. And this guy like loves Daisy May. Like she has, if you notice in the video, she has her her back is like kind of messed up, and you can see where they like removed, they're not scales, I'm drawing a blank like what they're giant, there's a specific name for them, and forgive me, but I can't remember what it's called. They had to remove one of those entirely because she had kidney stones or something, and he spent like $6,000 on this surgery for Daisy May to like get all fixed up. And so that's why she looks the way that she does. Whereas we're the house of misfits. All my animals have like all these interesting features and physical features because they're usually rescued. But that is the story of Daisy May. That's why we have Daisy May. And if you have a tortoise, I would love to hear any of your tips and tricks for enrichment. I mean, I've scoured the internet. It's an animal I've done a lot of research on even prior to getting her, but I would love to hear from you guys. If you have any tips for me as a Sulcata tortoise owner, I would love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments below. One of the biggest questions I get asked, where is our pig, Winnie? So let me just give you the background here. So when I lived in Nashville years ago, I don't think I've lived in Nashville since 2019. I was doing lots of research on getting a mini pig. I learned about how a lot of people call them mini pigs. They're not mini pigs. I mean, I did years of research, and I had all these notes. I had a whole file going, and I was really kind of diving into what it would look like to own a mini pig and live with one, and what they require. And I watched tons of videos, and you know, I did definitely get the idea that they were difficult, but there were so many people that made it look so easy, and in blogs and videos and whatever, kind of like parenting, to own a pig. So I feel like I kind of got this false idea that it would be all rainbows and sunshine, and it would be very easy. And so I was like 8 months pregnant, and I finally found someone who breeds them near me who is very reputable. We went and visited, and I was like, sign me up, let's do it. Like, I'm stoked. Like, I've been researching and preparing for this for a very long time. So I got everything ready. I got all my things, and her pen and her litter box, and all these toys, and her food, and the vet, and I got her, you know, spayed, and we brought her home, and it was wonderful. And it got increasingly hard for me to bend over and clean up litter, because I don't just have a pig, you know, I have lots of reptiles and cats, and this was my second child that I was pregnant with, by the way. So I had a 15-month-old by the time my son was born, and so I already had a 14-month-old walking around and taking up a lot of my time, and I was still, you know, figuring out motherhood and the ropes of that and what that looks like. And mind you, being married to a firefighter, he can be gone for like 3 days or sometimes even a week or two if he gets deployed on a fire, and I'm just solo. So I'm taking out all the trash myself, and I'm doing all these things myself, and you know, I was like, I got this, like, false sense of just confidence, all the confidence. And I was like, I got this. I've done so much research, like I'm prepared. And so as we get into owning this pig, she's got the awesome, like such an awesome personality, like great pig, like really cool, but really smart, as I knew. Well, she started to do things that were just something like I couldn't like address right away, and they needed to be addressed right away. Like for instance, this is one of the things, but she learned how to go into the kitty door because she was small, and she would go into the kitty door and go into the garage and step in the litter box and get cat poop all in her hooves, and then come inside and walk on our rug and get on our bed. And she figured out how to get out of her pen. So she would just be on like our couch with like cat poop in her hooves, like when we got home. And then she couldn't get back into her pen. And so she just didn't really use the litter box. And that's just like one of the many things that was like a struggle, and I just didn't really know how to rectify. So I got closer and closer to giving birth, and it just kind of hit me. I was like, I am so stressed out right now. And I fucked up. Like I made a mistake. Like I straight up made a mistake. I should not have gotten a pig right when I was giving, like I was like, oh, they'll grow up to, like this is perfect, like it's gonna be great. And and my husband warned me too, and I should have listened, but I'm very strong-headed. Like when I decide on something, it's very hard to deter me from that. So I'm about to give birth, and it's getting increasingly hard to like move around and take care of my other child. And this pig is very loud, and I'm realizing that this pig needs to live outside. Like this is not fair to me. It's not fair to the animal. Like anybody that thinks that they can keep a pig inside, now that I'm experiencing all of these different things myself, like no way in hell could you keep a pig inside. Like, I mean, maybe if you had a specific area of your house that was totally set up for that, and like you left the door open so they could go in and out. So I'm realizing like, dude, I have to figure out how to pay somebody to like build me a pig pen like down on the property, but like the road's too steep. There's many scenarios that you don't know about our property and whatever that would have to happen to like make this work. And we did not have the ability to do it. Not in time, especially for the baby. So I reached back out to the lady who I purchased her from, and I said, you know, I felt like a total idiot. I was like, you know what? I am not one of those people that just like knee-jerk reaction, like goes and buys an animal and like doesn't do any research. Like I legitimately have done research about a pig for years, and I was fully confident that I could take this on, but I made a mistake, and I'm in over my head, and I'm very stressed out. And I cannot imagine dealing with this stress with a newborn. Like this baby's in my stomach, and I don't have to do anything for it right now, and I cannot imagine. So I just told her, I said, I made a mistake. Like, do you know, and these pigs are not cheap either. Like, this is an expensive mistake. I just said, do you know of anybody that, like, maybe wants Winnie, like, could give her a wonderful home? Like, I'm really picky. And she said, well, it's really hard to find them a home when they're older, but because she's so young, I do have somebody who actually wanted to buy her, and she had already been spoken for, and they have her brother. So they put us in contact, and this couple is like the nicest couple. They live less than an hour away. We actually went and saw Winnie not that long ago. She's doing wonderful. So she lives on 2 acres with her brother. They pal around, and they actually were so grateful to be able to take her in because they have an older pig that was not putting up with the little ones, like BS basically. And so now it's Winnie and her brother, I can't remember his name, and they just pal around together, and then the older pig can just like do her own thing and be the matriarch of the group. So we went and visited after, and you know, I had already had her like spayed and everything. That was another very expensive thing. If you're thinking about getting one, it's like the cheap end is like $600 to have them spayed. So anyways, long story short, I fucked up. I made a mistake, and I actually wanted to do a little bit of content around that, and maybe a more realistic like video for people, because I didn't really come across one for me at the time that was like, it's not gonna work. You can't keep a pig inside. Like, you know what I mean? So I just kind of wanted to make a video like that because mini pigs are super cool, and it's like a fad thing, just like the, you know, the Highland cows and whatnot. And I consider myself a pretty responsible animal owner, and I prep myself pretty well for things like that, but that one I was not ready for. And so eventually when we have the barn built, I would love to own a pig again, but things that I will do differently, I will 100% have an outside pen. That is where the pig lives. They do not live in my house or in my immediate yard where I have nice landscaping and things that I don't want messed up. And she actually didn't mess up our landscaping. I just know that pigs can do that. So that is like something to consider too. They dig a lot. So I would definitely have an outside area. I would have a watering little hole thing ready to go. I would have it totally pig-proofed enrichment, like set up with tons of enrichment and stuff like that. And I would essentially just have an outside area. I think that, hi Dinah, do you want to say hi to everybody? This is Jessica's sister. Hi, sweet girl. This little one sleeps with me every single night. It's awesome. Oh, I love you. That is where Winnie is, and I should actually set up a time to go see her again soon. My son has not met her and would absolutely like love her. Jessica, do not claw my curtains. She's like, please, please. It's so fun though. Jessica Kershaw. Oh my goodness. Your claws are stuck in here. Oh, hang on, don't move. Let me help. Okay, now there's a fat hole in that frickin' curtain. What the heck? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that cleared up some questions that you had over the past 4+ years. And yeah, I think this is good. I think we're off to a good start here this year for this channel. I'm excited. After this, I'm gonna start building my Zen habitat right now to start building out my leopard gecko enclosure and start that. And today's a good day. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.